On paper, Quebec City Detention Center is secure, controlled movement, cameras on every wall. But before dawn, a drone slipped through the fog, a plastic bundle taped beneath it, humming just above the yard. Inmates saw it first. Guards saw it last. Windows shattered. Pepper spray drifted through the air. Alarms rolled down the corridors like thunder trapped in concrete. The package hit the ground before anyone could stop it. Then one voice cut through the noise. A single word: Icepick. A name correctional staff hadn't heard in months. Because the man behind it, Dave Turmel, was already locked away in Rome, waiting for extradition to Canada. And yet his people still moved as if they could hear him. No one knew from where or how. They caught the man, but the system he built kept moving. In Montreal's underworld, power flows toward whoever stays calm longest. But what happens when the calm isn't a person anymore? When it's a design? Because this wasn't a gang, it was infrastructure. And the architect had already left the building. Miss the button? Go ahead. Subscribe now so you don't forget later. He wasn't born into it. He built it. Dave Michael Turmel, born May 3, 1996 in Lévis, Quebec. The middle child of a family that never made the news. No criminal parents, no street pedigree. Just a quiet student who learned early that silence carried more weight than words. The first time his name appeared in a police report was the night he turned 18. A bar fight. 2 men stabbed. Investigators said he didn't shout, didn't flinch. He just walked out, leaving the knife behind. 3 years for attempted murder. Inside, guards found a sharpened piece of metal hidden in his mattress. They started calling him Icepick. What does a man learn after carving a weapon from scrap? That control starts with patience. 2018. He's out. But the pattern's already written. A threat with a baseball bat. Another arrest. 2019. A loaded .45 under the seat of his car. Back inside again. By 27, Turmel had spent almost 4 years behind bars. Each sentence hardened the name. Each release widened the circle. Somewhere between those walls, he stopped thinking like a soldier and started thinking like an engineer. He studied how contraband moved, how information traveled faster than weapons, how fear could run on its own if you gave it the right design. Around the same time, small crews along the St. Lawrence River began using a new tag, BFM, Blood Family Mafia. It wasn't a gang yet. It was a rumor that connected dealers from Lévis, Beauce, and Quebec City. By 2023, that rumor had weight. The Montreal-based Rizzuto crime family, the Sicilian network that once ran half the city, quietly opened its doors to Turmel's operation. Money flowed downriver, protection flowed back. He didn't call it an alliance. He called it distribution. Within months, BFM absorbed 3 rival street outfits and took over the meth and cocaine routes through eastern Quebec. No banners, no clubhouses, just coded phones and silence. Court files later described Turmel as methodical, never impulsive. Investigators couldn't decide if he was ambitious or just disciplined beyond reason. But here's what they couldn't explain. How does a man with no pedigree, no mentor, no inheritance, build a network that operates like a corporation? Did prison teach him structure, or did it simply reveal what he already was? Because by the time police realized how organized his network had become, the structure was already bigger than its creator. And the next move he made would prove that ambition, in the underworld, isn't measured by what you take. It's measured by what you refuse to give. The answer starts with a tax. February 6, 2023. The year the rules stopped working. In Quebec's underworld, every independent crew paid a 10% street tax. The Hells Angels cut for protection. But Dave Turmel refused. He told his men they wouldn't pay to work ground they already controlled. It wasn't defiance, it was calculation. He'd done the math. Fear only works if everyone believes it's inevitable. February 19, a mechanic at a Lévis service bay found a black GPS tracker bolted beneath Turmel's GMC Yukon. Not police issue, a warning. March 3rd, the retaliation. Multiple rounds tore through the home of Matthew Pelletier, an Angels associate, in Saint-Étienne-de-Lausanne. 31 shell casings recovered. No arrests. Turmel never spoke about it. He didn't need to. November 14, 9 months later, Michel Donny-Guérin, a Hells Angels tax enforcer, stepped outside his Trois-Rivières home to shovel snow. 19 shots. 2 neighbors heard the burst. None saw the shooters. Guérin died before paramedics arrived. Within 48 hours, Quebec City Police launched Project Mulsanne to map a series of targeted killings stretching from Lévis to Mauricie. December 2nd, the RCMP joined with Project Scandalo, cross-referencing cell tower data, traffic cam intervals, and encrypted SIM activity. The pattern emerged fast. 3 burner pings before every hit. Silence after. Analysts compared the coordination to Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. Small units, time strikes, total radio discipline. In 2 months, investigators counted 7 assaults, 4 murders, all linked by the same digital rhythm. Some victims were filmed at gunpoint, forced to blame the Angels before execution. For the first time in decades, the bikers looked over their shoulders. 30 of them filed statements fearing for their families. They changed houses, routes, grocery stores. Police briefings began using a new phrase: reverse intimidation, because fear, once their weapon, now belonged to someone else. And every trace of that fear led back to a man already marked in every database: Dave Michael Turmel. But here's the question investigators couldn't answer. Was this revenge? Or was it market correction? Because in that world, violence isn't passion, it's restructuring. And Turmel wasn't just fighting the Angels. He was making them obsolete. The Angels didn't want another war, so they offered him peace. January 7, 2024. For the first time in 25 years, the Hells Angels sent an olive branch instead of a warning. From a cell inside Bordeaux prison, veteran member Mario Ayer contacted the Blood family mafia through intermediaries. The offer was precise, almost corporate. Turmel could keep Charlesbourg and Lévis. He'd be exempt from the Angels' street tax, and the 28 kilograms of cocaine his crew stole, worth roughly $1.5 million, would be forgiven. In biker terms, that was surrender. For the first time in 25 years, one investigator later wrote, the Angels were ready to cede ground. 4 days later, a smuggled phone vibrated in Ayer's cell. The screen showed 2 words: fuck that. That was Turmel's reply. To him, the Angels weren't peacekeepers. They were kings of a dying empire. And he wasn't built to inherit it. He meant to replace it. By late January, fires started in Lévis and Beauce. Transport yards, auto shops, biker-friendly warehouses. Investigators found no accelerants, no suspects, no pattern on paper. But on the street, the pattern was obvious. Each fire burned exactly where the Angels still collected tax. Police analysts began using a new phrase: violence as zoning. February 10th, the Angels doubled their private bounty on Turmel to $1 million. March 1st, the Bolo program released his file nationally. $250,000 reward for information leading to arrest. His photo appeared at gas stations, on provincial highways, and across social media feeds. But every broadcast made him larger. The more they hunted him, the more his legend scaled. Detectives called it visibility as control, a fugitive who used exposure like armor. He wasn't breaking the system, he was replacing it. And then something shifted. The war stopped being about territory. It stopped being about money. It became about succession. Who gets to write the next chapter of Quebec's underworld? But wars fought by older men are always finished by younger ones, and what happened next would prove that ambition, unchecked, doesn't just challenge authority. It consumes everything in its path. Peak reminder: if you're still watching, ask yourself, when power becomes a habit, what's left to negotiate? And that's when teenagers started dying. September 16, 2024. Frampton, Quebec. A farming town that still slept with its doors unlocked. Until that morning, firefighters were called to a blaze outside a Red Devils clubhouse at 5:42 a.m. When they put it out, they found what was left of a car and what was left inside it. The victim was 14, a boy from St. Leonard, tied loosely to a neighborhood clique that called itself EGK, short for Everybody Gets Killed. According to investigators, he'd been sent with another teenager to strike the Red Devils with AK-47s and Molotovs. A retaliation job. A suicide job. The rifles melted in the fire. The bodies were burned beyond recognition. Forensic teams later matched DNA fragments to a single family. The second boy still unconfirmed. A child, armed for a war he didn't start. Word spread fast through Quebec's biker network. To the Hells Angels, it was an omen. A sign that a gang once built on discipline had created something it could no longer control. September 29th. In the Beauce region, Angels founder Michel Sky Langlois convened an emergency council, the first since the end of the Rock Machine War that killed 162 people. They met behind closed doors in a farmhouse. Every name in that room had survived one war already, and no one wanted another. But any vote to retaliate risked fresh conspiracy charges under Canada's organized crime laws. For the first time in decades, the Angels hesitated. The Blood family mafia didn't. Investigators later confirmed the meeting ended at 10:48 p.m. By 11:02, another vehicle was already burning near Lévis, another message without a signature. The old order paused, the new one didn't. And while bikers debated morality and survival, police technicians traced something no one in that farmhouse knew existed. A signal that didn't come from Quebec. It came from outside the country. Because here's what no one wanted to admit. The moment a 14-year-old gets handed an AK-47, the war isn't about power anymore. It's about entropy. And the man who started it, he was already gone. The next hit would cross borders. February 2025. The investigation had crossed oceans. In Canada, Project Malsain and Project Scandalo had merged. One police task force tracking a system, not a man. Their maps stretched from Lévis to Lisbon, from Beauce to Barcelona. Raids hit safe houses across Lévis. Beauce and Trois-Rivières. 18 arrests in 2 weeks. None of them spoke Turmel's name, not once. February 29, 2024. In Lisbon, Portuguese police stopped Rubens Deniz, one of Turmel's closest lieutenants. In his luggage, 40,000 euros, 3 encrypted phones, and a notebook listing drop zones across Greece, Spain, and Rome. RCMP analysts decrypted one phrase: "He's tired of moving." Attached was a single GPS coordinate: Sagappa District, Rome. March 27, 2025. Italian authorities surrounded a small apartment near the Tiber River. Turmel barricaded for 5 minutes, then opened the door. Hands up, silent. Like he'd been waiting for this exact morning. Inside, they found 2 smartphones, multiple SIMs, Mercedes keys, a notebook written in French and Arabic, and a trace of cocaine. The tip came from an ally chasing the $250,000 BILLO reward. Within hours, he was inside Regina Coeli prison, Rome. Calm, unmoved. Processing began for extradition. Officially, the RCMP declared success. Unofficially, their system kept pinging. Hours after Turmel's arrest, encrypted messages continued moving through the same servers he'd used. Same phrasing, same cadence, same signature line. They caught the man, but not the voice that still answered back. And when investigators traced the last signal, it didn't lead to a hideout. It led to an IP address inside a government building. The violence he engineered hadn't ended. It had just changed location, because this is what nobody wants to say out loud. In the modern underworld, arresting the leader doesn't collapse the network. It confirms the design worked. Turmel didn't need to be free. His system was already automated. March 2025. Back in Quebec, violence didn't pause to celebrate an arrest. Inside Orsainville prison, inmate James Celestin, known on the street as Frequent, was stabbed 10 times in the exercise yard. Surveillance showed no warning, just motion, then blood. Days later, Maxime Mahoug, a former cooperator who'd testified in earlier biker cases, was beaten so badly he spent weeks in a coma. 6 inmates were charged. None gave statements. The official reports listed the incidents as unrelated. Investigators called them maintenance. That same month, a drone dropped a package over Quebec City Detention Center, the same method that once kept Turmel's crew supplied. Guards moved in. Pepper spray filled the air. 40 inmates connected to the Blood family mafia joined a coordinated riot that lasted 11 minutes. One officer later said, "We expect stabbings every time we walk in." It wasn't revenge, it was continuity. April 2025. International warrants expanded the scope of the investigation. Focus shifted to Al Boivin, Turmel's former enforcer and logistics man. Sightings placed him in Serbia, the Netherlands, and Colombia. Encrypted drives recovered from earlier raids showed financial routes threading through South America and West Africa. Shell accounts, trade fronts, silent partners. Analysts tracing the flow of money began to question whether what Turmel built was even a gang anymore. One investigator phrased it bluntly. If those logs are real, Turmel didn't build an organization. He built a model. A system that operated on replication, not hierarchy. They called him ruthless. But what if he was just efficient? Because in Montreal's underworld, power isn't something you hold. It's something everyone else agrees not to take. And the moment someone stops agreeing, there are no debates, no negotiations, no second chances, just a sudden vacancy where a name used to be. But Turmel didn't leave a vacancy. He left a blueprint. To the next generation, he isn't a warning. He's a manual. As of November 2025, Dave Icepick Turmel remains in custody in Rome. No extradition date confirmed. His network? Still operational. The underworld doesn't kill ambition. It automates it. And the question no one wants to answer. If violence can be engineered to run without its architect, who's really in control? Because when you catch the man, but the system keeps moving, did you win? Or did you just confirm the design? You're still here? Do what you meant to do earlier, subscribe. And if you made it this far, you know what to do. Hit the bell. There are more cases like this coming. Cases where the truth is darker than any fiction. See you in the next one.